Thank you for giving me this opportunity to have my say, whatever it is. My aim is not to steal the show. This show belongs to the Air Force today. And my aim will be to just create a level platform covering the ground operations of the Army on which the Air Force, my friend Kush and Marshall, are to build up and tell us the real story. The real story belongs to them. I'm just a facilitator. Before I start, let me clarify that it is a general impression that the war started on 3rd of December. No, in the Eastern Theater, we crossed the border in strength, not one or two units, in strength on the night of the 1st and 2nd December. There was no shying away from that. So we started the war in the Eastern Theater. I don't know about the Western Theater. Secondly, I will cover the operations, not entire Eastern Theater. The Eastern Theater belonged to, it was divided into the Eastern Thrust Line, Northern Thrust Line, Northwest 33 Corps, and Western. That was 2 corps. I will cover only 4 corps. And that is where the Air Force came to our rescue and played a very major role. And they changed the whole game with the help of General Sagat and the team, General Sagat plus Group Captain Chandan Singh. These two gentlemen, they were responsible for changing the whole game and making sure that Bangladesh became a totally independent, full-fledged country. Had it not been for their cooperation, for their forward thinking, Bangladesh may not have been liberated totally. It may have been a ceasefire could have been enforced at the line of the rivers. Now let me start. I'll cover the ground operations of 4 Corps. That time, I was the brigade major of 57 Artillery Brigade. That was the central division. And by virtue of that, I was getting all the information from the forward units in real time. Also, the neighboring formations. I'll skip these slides just to remind you what the Pakistan Army unleashed on 26th of March 71. That is just one day before. Now, as soon as this happened, the Indian government, the Indian parliament went into a huddle. And as early as 29th July, they decided that we are going to help liberate Bangladesh whole hog. A decision was taken in the parliament and the prime minister announced on 29th July. Second decision she took was to go around all the major nations of the world and apprise them of the situation prevailing and how India was being burdened by a huge lot of refugees coming from Bangladesh. And the high point of that tour of friendship, signing a friendship treaty with USSR. And alongside, orders were given or decision was taken to train an army out of the refugees and carry out operations within East Pakistan, help those that Mukti Bani to carry out operations whatever we could. Also, nibbling operations started from July. Now, what is nibbling operation? There are certain salients of East Pakistan getting into the Indian territory. We encourage the trained units of Mukti Bani to go and cut them off and occupy them. So they acted as the infantry with the artillery support given by my formation, my brigade, 57 RT Brigade. So such operations were carried out. There were two aims of carrying out Libyan operation. Firstly, to target certain portions, cut out certain portions of Bangladesh and declare that a part of Bangladesh has been liberated, announce to the whole world, and put Mukti Bani there and tell them to defend that area. Second was, in some cases, our own troops were also involved in these operations. And General Sadat's aim was that we should also battle inoculate our own unit before we start the main war. So he wanted to bleed the units. I mean, make them feel the real war in advance of the starting of the main war, which started on 1st of December. And this happened as early as July. From July till December, we were doing this. Now, during the run-up to the war, we were told as early as October that war is a certainty. We are definitely going to war. When? It was not told. Probably toward the end of the year. All plans were finalized and rehearsed and debated in October, by end of October. Thrust lines were decided, 2 corps from the west, 33 from northwest, with 20 Div and a brigade of 6 mountain Div, 101 area from north from through Meghalaya, and 4 corps from the east with 3 divisions, 8, 57, 23. Pak forces which were defending all of East Pakistan were shown on the slide now. 9 Div, 14 Div, 16 Div, that was defending northwest salient, that is toward 33 toward Siliguri. 39 Div, which was created ad hoc division by pulling out a brigade and some other forces from here and there. 36 Division, also ad hoc division. And they had only one armored regiment in the whole of East Pakistan, and only one squadron of PAF sabers. Now 4 Corps. This is the orbit of 4 Corps. Headquarters located at Telia Mora, 30 kilometers east of Agartala. 8 Mountain Div was pulled out of Nagaland and brought to, or given the task of Sylhet sector, the whole salient, with 52 and 81 brigades, only 2. 8 Mountain Div did not have an RT brigade. This RT brigade was pulled out of 2 mountain divisions located at Dinja. 23 Div was given the southern sector, that's a Komila Chittagong, and 57 Div the middle portion. 57 Div had 3 brigades, 61, 73, and 311. Now, I first cover the ops of 8 Mountain Div. The commander's name is given there. Only 2 brigades. And this is the area of operations of Sylhet sector of 8 Mountain Div. You will notice the roundel on top, that is Sylhet area, and the horizontal roundel down below is Maulvi Bazaar and Kanchugan or some other place. Ghazipur, Shamsher Nagar, and Maulvi Bazaar. The tasks were given to 2 brigades, 59 on the right, 81 on the left. Their progress, opposite this, Pakistan had 2 brigades. 2 brigades covering the Sylhet and area surrounding Sylhet, and covering the approaches from northeast, from Dauki side, and they suspected another approach from Karimganj side, from east to west. 303 Brigade was deployed around Maulvi Bazaar, Palaura, Shamsher Nagar. Again, 303 was ad hoc brigade created by pulling out 1 or 2 regular units and some paramilitary forces. Now, nibbling operations I've already covered. The 2 big salients which were captured before the main operation, before the war, one was 59 Brigade captured a salient opposite Karimganj, and 61 Brigade of 57 Div captured a salient at Dalai. Now, this was also one of the aims was also to give an impression to the enemy that we are coming from these things. These are our launching pads, which was to deceive the enemy, which actually we did not use. 59 Brigade initially captured a place called Atagaram, in which 4-5 GR was launched. They suffered quite heavy casualties. And then the next battalion attacked Ghazipur, which was held up, and 4-5 GR again had to be pulled out to help them out. Then after capture of Ghazipur, the brigade advanced up to Panchugan. Now, this is the stage where General Sagat thought that Sylhet must be invested at the earliest, lest it pulls out and goes into the Dhaka board, and which we will have to face subsequently to capture Dhaka. He didn't want this brigade to pull out. So what he did, he asked Group Captain Chandan Singh, can we launch a heliborne operation? And as you know, the team was so perfect, so he never said no. He said, yes, why not? Although I think the Eastern Air Command was quite hesitant about it. But without their specific permission, this operation was planned on the 7th and 8th of December. In the meantime, 81 Brigade captured Maulvi Bazar, which was held by 303 Brigade. Or they contacted Maulvi Bazar. This is the progress between 1st to 7th. On 6th December, 59 Brigade captured Kalaura, and that is from where the heliborne operation was launched subsequently. Now, the heli lift to invest Sylhet started on the 7th and continued without a stop, day and night, with just a few available Mi-4s of 110 helicopter unit, which in detail I expect my friend will be covering. 4-5 GR was lifted, almost a whole battalion, less some of the casualties. This battalion had already suffered 4 officers lost, 4 officers dead. Yet General Sagat insisted that I want only this battalion to do this operation. It was lifted. Objections by the CEO and the brigade commander overruled by General Sagat. He said, no, this battalion must go. It was lifted. The objectives given to the battalion were airfield, that is Sylhet airfield, rail road bridge, and the broadcasting station. Now, initially, it was only 2 weak companies which could be lifted. Subsequently, some more troops were built up. Hardly any RT support, just 2 mountain guards. On 7th to 8th, the battalion between these 2 days, in the next 24 hours or 36 hours, the battalion managed to capture the airfield. They adopted a very aggressive posture. They fanned out to depict a very wide frontage. And they also suffered further casualties. They had to face a number of counterattacks. Now, what happened? What was the effect of this heli lift? Pak commanders, both brigade commanders 202 and 313, and the div commander sitting at Baharabazar, they thought a whole brigade of Gurkhas had been landed near Sylhet. This impression was further confirmed by a news from BBC, which worked to our advantage. Now, as a result of this, they panicked and they pulled out. They ordered 303 Brigade to pull out from Maulvi Bazar and join Sylhet and help defend Sylhet. They wanted to defend Sylhet at all costs. Now, there were 2 brigades in Sylhet. In fact, there were 3 brigadiers. What happened? 303 Brigade was to change command. Another brigadier was posted. he had not yet taken over because he was very new and the battle had started. So he refused to take over. Then those two, both the brigade along with two brigadiers joined uh, 202 brigade. So there were three brigadiers in that area. And ultimately on 15th December, when the surrender took place in this area, there were three brigadiers and so many other officers, 109 officers, 109 JCOs, more than 6,000 jawans. That was captured. Now on 11th, the Air Force came in to the help of the Gurkhas. They had hardly any RT support. The hunters, they let the Pakistanis have it. And the Gurkhas, probably most of them had never seen an airstrike being brought down on the enemy right in front of their eyes. So they were shouting with joy, most of the Gurkhas. They were very happy to see that, and their morale boosted up. On 14th, there was a ground link up with this Silk, with Gurkhas. That is from the northeast. Another force called mm, FB sector, or under Brigadier Apte. I'm sorry, I'm missing that. There was another force coming from 1 battalion, 6 Rajput, plus some paramilitary forces and Muktibani. They joined up from the northeast Dauki side and they linked up with the Gurkhas. Now, this is where a funny incident happened. Major I.A.J. Cardoso, who later on became a major general, he joined up the battalion on the 8th of December. Staff college, he was doing DSSC, and that course was cancelled or terminated prematurely, and he managed to join the battalion on this particular day, 8th of December. Now, he was a very popular officer. He was Alpha Company commander, and Gurkhas were very fond of him, and they could not pronounce his name Cardozo. They used to call him Kartu Saab. So the word spread in the battalion, Kartu Saab Ayo. That means he has come, okay. No, he took over as police. I met him last night in a function in the Bangladesh High Commission. Now, the effect of this operation was enemy was totally baffled. And to our troops, Air Force, as well as Army, the scope of vertical envelopment was revealed both to General Sagat and Troop Captain Chandan. And this is when General Sagat made up his mind that I am going to use this weapon, this strategy in subsequent operations also. The air crew gained live experience. They were, as I think Push Baird will cover, they were not, most of them were not fully ops. And they learned during this operation and became fully ops within 48 hours or 1 or 2 days. The enemy, that is the biggest advantage, that two brigades of the enemy were tied up in Sylhet. They could not withdraw and join up in the Dhaka Bowl for defense of Dhaka. That was the biggest advantage. That is how, when we advanced towards Dhaka, there were hardly any troops to defend that place. So that is the story of 8th Mountain. Now I come to 57. That is my own division where I was serving as a brigade major of 57 RT Brigade. This is the area of operations, Agartala to Ashugan. These are the phases of 57 days. First phase was capture of Akhauda, which was a railway junction, very heavily defended by 12 Frontier Forces Battalion. And this took us about 5 days, 1st to 5th December. Two brigades, 311, entire brigade, 311 brigade captured this. At the same time, our 2nd brigade, 73 brigade, captured a place called Ganga Sagar, further south of Agartala. After having captured Akhauda, on the 6th morning, the 73 brigade started advancing. to Brahmanbadia and further to Ashugan. And that is where the advance halted. At Ashugan, the Pakistanis blew up the coronation bridge in our face, and there one or two battalions, that is 18 Rajput, 10, 10 Bihar, they suffered a setback because the Pakistanis who were withdrawing, uh, they could not cross the Meghna over the bridge because the bridge was blown up prematurely. So they were caught up on the home bank, that is on the eastern bank of Meghna. And perforce, it's like you trap a cat in a room, the cat becomes a tiger. So whatever force was there was being led by Brigadier Sadullah Khan, 27 Brigade of Pakistan. He organized them and he took up hasty defenses and he gave a surprise to our two battalions, that is 18 Rajput and 10 Bihar. They suffered quite heavy casualties. And that is when General Sagat decided that now, what do I do? I cannot cross the huge Meghna River there. In any case, even if I had captured, even if he had captured the bridge intact, the enemy, more than a brigade, was sitting on the far bank. So it would have been impossible to attack across such a turbulent river and fight that vessel. So his brain worked quickly and he changed the plan totally. This slide shows the entire area of operations of the advance of. Uh, I'll go back to the Battle of Akhoda. For the Battle of Akhoda, which was a very tough battle for us, these were the artillery resources in my brigade, and I was commanding the fire of all these units, about 78 guns of different calibers. We also had an AROP flight, fixed wing, and we had a locating battery, uh, which established a sound ranging base with which we were able to carry out certain amount of counter bombardment. And we also had a met section. I coordinated the fire of all these, and my fire plan was select targets selected off the map. We could not uh, survey them. We could not register them by firing. It was all silent. The fire plan was silent till midnight. That is when the battalions were advancing. Till midnight, we did not open fire. And at 0001 hours, certainly all the guns opened up on Akhoda. And that is uh, lifted up the morale of the advancing battalions, and that also gave direction to the battalions at night. Mind you, 4 guards were passing through a marshy area and lost direction in the pitch dark. But as soon as my first salvo fell on Thoda, they suddenly lit up. It lit up the target, and they said, "Oh, this is our objective." This is behind northwest of Akhoda. The underneath the bridge is a marshy area, part of the Tas River. It's one of the battery commanders team with 4 guards, Major Mukhinder Dhillon and his team. After the railway station of Akhoda was captured, this is again same slide, advanced to up to Ashuka. Now this is where the heli lift started. That is from Brahmanbaria. First, 1 battalion, 4 guards was lifted to this place, Raipura, across the Meghna River. And subsequently, that is on the 9th evening, the lift started. On the 9th and 10th night, the whole battalion was lifted. 10th, 11th, 12th. Next 3 days, the rest of my brigade, that is 57 RT Brigade, remainder of 311 Brigade, and some units of 73 Brigade, and including the RT, they were all lifted to a place called Narsingdi. that same Coronation Bridge, Meghna River, 10 Bihar and 18 Rajput advancing, 4 guards also advancing along the railway line. Now, this is where the strategy for further operations were changed by General Sagat. Although he was told only to capture area, clear area up to Meghna River, but he could not be restricted there. There was a tele-conversation between Sagat and General Arora, the army commander, on 7th at the headquarters of 61 Mountain Brigade, where Sagat probably gave an indication that told Jagjit Arora, I'm going to jump the river and advance to Dhaka. He said, no, your orders are not to cross Meghna. So he said, these are the words. He said, Jackie, I'm doing something more than what you told me to do. What is the problem? I am going to cross Meghna. We said, okay, hold on. I'm coming there, we will discuss it. After that, it was not discussed and Sagat had his way. This is again depicts the heli lift. The helicopters taking off from Brahmanbaria firstly to Raipura, one stream, one whole night, and the bigger stream next day to a place called Narsingdi, that is down below on the left. It was a huge area of paddy fields, paddy was cut, level area, and there the helicopters were landing in 2s and 3s and 4s. This is the schedule of the heli lift. Picture of the helicopters, same area, Narsingdi. This is the guns of 65 and 59 mountain regiments broken down and loaded in B4s, now being taken out and reassembled. With the help of some local people, they came, volunteers, they helped us. Guns being pulled out because we had no vehicles. So they helped us to pull the guns out and take them onto the roadside where we pushed them on the road or loaded them up in rickshaws and various other, all types of transport. This is again the guns being pulled out. Now started the chase to Dhaka. That is, from Narsingdi, my division started advancing on 2 axes. One was the road axis, straight to Dhaka. The second was a rail axis, the railway line from Narsingdi to Tungi and to Dhaka. 73 Brigade. On the road, 311 Brigade. This is the road axis. Infantry advancing, led by 4 guards, my friend Nikobari's battalion. This is on the rail axis. In January, we had an officer named Percy Dice who had worked in the railways. 2 officers from that regiment are sitting here, Rana and Deep Kapoor. What Percy Dice had experience of serving in the railways, so he hooked up some of the wagons which are lying in Narsingdi railway station, pushed them together, brought them onto the railway line, main line, and put guns, ammunition, all other loads into the wagons and started pushing them. Because there was no road leading to Tungi or to Dhaka on this axis. The Jawans are pushing that. We called this train 59 Combat Special. 59 was the regiment. Guns being pushed again. This is ultimately we reach within range of outskirts of Dhaka. And this is the mountain gun being fired by the CEO of 65 Mountain Regiment, Colonel D.S. Bahel. The range of the gun could just about touch the outskirts of Dhaka. The aim was to let Niazi hear the boom of our guns, that we are so close that now we can start the battle. He had nothing to defend. This is the medium gun I was talking of. Out of the resources, we had only 6 of these guns. But we had no gun towers, how to pull them out. But It's a long story how we managed to float them on down the Meghna River or certain channels of the Meghna, and we managed to carry them right up to a place called uh, Demra, or on the eastern bank of Sitalakya River, from where the Dhaka cantonment was well within range. So we bombarded the certain targets in Dhaka cantonment with the help of medium guns. That is on 14th and 15th. Now this is 23 Mountain Division operating further south in the area of Komila, uh, Belonia, Komila, Laksham. There were two axes. There were three brigades in 23 Div. Fourth brigade, that is 61 brigade of my division, 57 Div, was also released. It was earlier core reserve. It was released to 23 Div. And that also helped, and that was allotted the northern axis, that is to advance from north of Komila towards Chandina and Daud Kandi. Daud Kandi is the, uh, you see a river, leftmost portion of the river, that is the Daud Kandi ferry leading on to Dhaka from there. And the southern axis on which the three brigades, what happened? The three brigades of 23 Div, they followed a unconventional method. Instead of the Pakistanis had deployed, they were holding strong points very close to the border and held by fairly strong strength of troops. Their main defenses were at Laksham, further back, and at a place called Lalmai Hill, Lal or Manamati. That was the next to the cantonment of Komila. It was a hill, a sausage-shaped feature, you can see. Now, these are the two strong points. The aim of Pakistani commander, that was General uh, Rahim Khan, that the troops will fight in the forward areas, in the strong points, once their strength, they have fought to the extent of, that was General Yazi's order, that you must fight till your strength reduces more than 50%. And the remaining strength at the right time will withdraw to the strong points and defend the strong points, last man, last out. Now, our brigades adopted a strategy which did not allow the enemy to do this. They, instead of attacking the strong points at the forward posts, they infiltrated in between them and surrounded them and went behind them. And they didn't bother to capture those or attack those points. Now, the enemy the commanders either did not give the orders to withdraw to the forward troops, or they delayed the order too much. With the result that when the units started withdrawing, they found all the nodal points at the back occupied by Indian units. And they started coming into the bag one by one. So, 900 at one place on the Daud-Kandi axis, on the 9th of December, and so many other units kept hitting into Indian units and either suffering casualties or surrendering, raising a white flag. Now, this way, there was total confusion in the enemy brigade in the 36th Division. It was like letting a cat into a hen coop. And you know what happens to the hens. The Pakistani troops were running like lost children. They didn't know where to go, and they started surrendering. So much so that on the 6th evening, when the troops gave intimation, the forward brigades gave intimation to the GOC that this is what is happening, confusion. He said, okay, tomorrow I'm coming forward. I'll hold a conference there. I'll tell you what to do now, next, what is my strategy. Next morning, he was driving up from Chandpur. His headquarters was Chandpur. I can't indicate here. That is on the bank of Meghna. I'm coming up. So he started up in 2 or 3 vehicles, and When he went a few kilometers, he found the Indians holding their road. He quickly turned back. He captured our forward unit, that was, I think, first 11 GR. They captured the first vehicle, but the GOC managed to get away. After going back to Chandpur, he did not stop there. He requested General Niazi that I am lost, my division is lost. So he gave him a, what you call, gunboat. There was a few gunboats. Chandpur was quite a big river port. So he took a gunboat and vanished. He told him to, you come back to Dhaka. So this is the difference between a Pakistani GOC and an Indian GOC. On the other hand, General Sagat, he made it a habit to go and land next to the advancing column, the company leading company commander, the point company commander, that is the Vanguard company. Land next to him, give a shabash to the young captain or the major and tell him, carry on, there's no enemy. I have gone and surveyed everything. So this was Sagat, totally different. And on this axis also, this is exactly what he did. On 9th of December, he flew over Chandpur and he certainly noticed he had an eye for this thing, eye for the ground. He could read like a map. He saw suddenly a number of Bangladeshi flags popping up from various houses, a number of houses. So he deduced that yes, Pakistanis have vacated Chandpur. He went back to the leading head of the column and he told them, come on, push on, son. It's only a few hours away. I want Chandpur. And sure enough, by the evening, the column was there, led by a squadron of PT-76. Right. Okay. This is these are the Pakistani commanders. Incidentally, this Brigadier Mansoor Atif was a hockey player, captain of the Pakistani Olympic team long back, a few years ago, which beat India in the Olympics. He was also captured. I have already described the break-in operation, what our brigades did. They bypassed and they also invested the strong points of Manamati and surrounded Laksham. And the park commanders, their folly was they either did not give the orders to withdraw in time or delayed the order. The withdrawal was totally chaotic. Withdrawal, when I say withdrawal, from the forward positions. This is the progress of advance to Chandpur, headquarters of General Rahim, 36 step. On 10th of December, the civilian population of Chandpur gave a civic reception to General Sagat. 61 Brigade, now coming back to Daud Kandi axis, 61 Brigade released to 23 Div. Across the IB, the Army engineers made a class 5 track of 20 kilometers overnight on which this brigade advanced and established itself at a place called Burichang. 7th December, Sagat landed, had breakfast with them, and then he assigned them further tasks. That he gave these tasks to 61 Brigade. Hamin Manavati, which was a strong point, advance on Burichang, Chandana, Daudkandi, and they managed to capture Daudkandi by 9th. That means now the road to Dhaka lay open. And this is the place, Burichang is the place where General Sagat spoke to General Arora and told him that I am going ahead, I am crossing. And where General Arora told him, no, you will not do that. He defied the order. Now, subsequently, Komila, Laksham, Manamati, all 3 strong points were captured, surrounded, and then the enemy vacated, and those who were there, while vacating, they were either caught, trapped, captured, or killed. Now, on 22nd, on 12th December, General now said, having captured this southern area, that is the Manamati Kobila area, said now 23 div must cross the Meghna and help 57 div in the forthcoming battle for Dhaka. At that time, we didn't know that we will not have to fight at Dhaka. We had to prepare, and 23 div was to uh, cross the Meghna River, and jointly with 57 div, we prepared for the Battle of Dhaka. And this is again the third time the Air Force was employed, the V4s were employed to lift 23 div. Details I will leave. Now, all that is left for me to cover is the northern thrust, that is through Meghalaya, 101 area. General Gurbakh Singh Gill was the GOC. On 5th of December, his jeep stepped on a mine and he lost a leg and replaced by General Nagra, who was earlier GOC 2 Mountain Dew. The troops under command 101 area were 95 Brigade and 167 Brigade was held in reserve, not actually moved so far. And another column was FJ sector under Brigadier Sant Singh. Now this is the area quite confused. You can't see, you can't really. Okay. Area of operations. 93 Brigade was defending this area on this axis, that is from Mymensingh and from Meghalaya coming straight on to Dhaka. Strong points to be defended, Jamalpur and Mymensingh. The troops were 2 battalion, 31 Baloch and 33 Punjab. Now, the first strong battle was fought at very close to the border, that is Meghalaya-Bangladesh border, with 31 against a company of 31 Baloch, commanded by Ehsan Malik, Captain Ehsan Malik. This brave officer held off the Indian attacks not once, not twice, but thrice, number of days. Even after very heavy airstrikes, he did not give up. And ultimately, on 4th, 5th December, on orders, specific orders from his CEO, he agreed to surrender. Later on, after the ceasefire, Field Marshal Malik Shah wrote a due letter to this officer through his CEO. He congratulated him. This battalion was commanded by Sultan Ahmed, Colonel Sultan Ahmed. And once again, the next battle was at Jamalpur. Strong point, Sultan Ahmed refused to surrender. All the forces, that is 1st Maratha and I think 13 Guards and 6 Sikh Khalai, they were arrayed around, they were in contact with this Jamalpur, but and General Clare, Brigadier Clare, who was commander of 95 Brigade, decided to send a letter to Sultan Ahmed that it will be better for you if you surrender, because you are totally outnumbered, you have no resources, you cannot defend, and why unnecessarily suffer casualties. A letter was sent on a small notepad through a Mukti volunteer. He sent back a reply that, Brigadier, next time I meet you, I would like to see you not with a pen in your hand, but a Sten gun or a weapon in your hand. And he sent a bullet also, wrapped up in that letter. So that was his reply. Ultimately, this place was attacked. This battalion suffered heavy casualties. The rest of 93 Brigade, that was on the eastern side, that's Mymensingh side, 33 Punjab. They were also hemmed in by the force commanded by Brigadier Sant Singh, and they were made to withdraw. And at one stage, they were also ambushed and suffered very heavy casualties. This is that Mukti boy being congratulated by General Nagra, and on the right is Brigadier Clay. Now I'll hurry up. This is about the para drop at Tangel. We all know the story. Two para. Captain Ghosh was inducted a few days earlier to recce the dropping zone and prepare for the drop. And Tiger Siddiqui, that time I think he was Lieutenant Colonel, he provided the help. He was a senior commander of the Mukti Bahini. He provided all the help. The objectives given were to Pugli Bridge and a ferry. Now, when the paradrop took place, Brigadier Qadir Siddiqui, commander of 93 Brigade, when he from his command post, he saw the paradrop happening by daylight. So he probably told one of his staff officers, go and see, probably these are our friends, Chinese coming from the north, yellows. When that officer went forward, he was promptly captured. Or rather, he came back and told him, sir, they're not Chinese, they are Indians. Subsequently, Brigadier Qadir was also captured, and the story ended there. The surrender, everybody knows, this picture is very familiar. This is the surrender at Bhairab by GOC. On the right is GOC, name is Majid Khan, Abdul Majid Khan. And on the left is my GOC, General Gonsalves, taking the surrender. Now I'll skip through this. This is a few pictures of the V4s. General Sagat with the pilots having a good laugh. I think I'll end my presentation. This is myself at Dhaka Airfield with one of my colleagues, Captain Sharma. This is the day when Sheikh Mujib was to land at Tisgaon. So a lot of crowd was there to receive. I was one of them. This is the family of Sheikh Mujib, rescued by Major Tara, who's on the left. And incidentally, yesterday evening in the function at the High Commission, he was also there. Sheikh Mujib adopted Major Tara as sort of a son. He said, you are like a son to me. This is the whole family. And subsequently, on 15th of August, 1975, whole family was murdered, except Sheikh Hasina and Rehana. Final parade given by 4 guards, send-off parade, salute taken by Sheikh Mujib. This is my brigade staff, my commander, Jangi Bawa, in the middle. I'm on his left. And rest of the staff officers with the 2 air defense guns, 23 guns, captured from Dhaka. This is back at Agartala. And this is the presentation of Leap. This is my book, Leap Across Meghna. I want to present one copy to the director, sir. I hope you'll accept it. I'll just give it now. I presented a copy of this book to Sheikh Hasina a few years ago when she was here in Delhi. Thank you. That's right.
Thank you very much, sir. We'll do the presentation at the end, sir, if that's all right with you. May I now request Squad Leader Pushp Vaid to make his presentation?
Put the next one on. Yeah.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me to give my presentation. My helicopter operation of Bangladesh war was unknown till about 2019 when I went to Secunderabad, gave a talk to College of Air Warfare and told them what we had done. After the war, after the 71 war, I left Indian Air Force, migrated to UK, forgot about the war, Indian Air Force, and got on with life in UK. New country, new job, new children growing up. 2007, I rang up Air Headquarters to find out what they knew about me. And I discovered they had no idea what we had done. Only had one line saying 110 HU took part in the Bangladesh war. That was it. I was shocked. So I started writing letters, articles, started printing them here and there, but nobody took any notice. Till Wing Commander Uni Khata came on the scene, he saw my articles, he invited me to come to Hyderabad, which I went, and I stayed with him. He arranged for me to give a talk to College of Air Warfare in 2019. And there were about 50 officers, group captain rank and equivalent, Army and Navy. And I presented the same I'm going to present to you today. And they were looking at me. We've been in the service 20 plus years, and nobody ever told us helicopters did this wonderful job during the Bangladesh war. Army has been blowing their trumpet that we crossed the Meghna. We reached Dhaka in no time at all. Nowhere is mentioned they used helicopters. So I'll tell you my story. And after I spoke to College of Air Warfare, the commanding officer rang up Air Marshal Vikram and told him, please meet Ved. So when I reached Delhi, Air Marshal Vikram came to my sister's place and talked to me and got all the information and put it in the records of the Indian Air Headquarters. And then Wing Commander Uni Khata and myself got together to write a book. And that book has just come out. I was waiting for the book to come in November. It's come out. And I was fortunate to go and meet the Chief of Air Staff on 2nd of January. And I told him that this is my mission. I wrote about 10 things. I want to go all over Bharatiya Vayu Sena and Bharatiya Army and tell them what we had done. And that's what I've been able to achieve in the last 3 months. I've been traveling all over India to nearly 40 presentations I've done, east, west, south, north, everywhere. So I'll get on with my presentation. That's me 52 years ago, young and handsome. And that's the book which has just been published. That is the Mi-4 helicopter that we used during the war. The two doors you see at the back, they're called clamshell doors. They were removed. So we had no doors at the back. There was a big hole at the back of the cabin. And there were no seats. We got rid of the seats. And everybody, the luggage was just pushed in like a truck, and passengers were told to sit on top of it. We had no seats, we had no ropes, we had no nets, nothing. The two pilots were sat in the cockpit. They were told not to get out of the cockpit because that wastes time. We had no time. And the only gentleman who was handling the passengers was the flight engineer. And he had no safety belt either. He only had a headset to talk to us, to tell us ready or not ready. Whenever we landed, he'll be the first one out, put his hand out to stop people going towards the tail loader and make sure the passengers are safe. And he'll be the last one in, and he's literally standing at the edge of that hole. And I don't know how we survived, because the entire 2 weeks, we didn't lose a single person or a single amount of freight. It was absolutely incredible. My hats off to those 15-odd flight engineers we had with us. This is how we were flying all over without the clamshell doors. But every time we landed, we did not make people jump when we were in the air. So once we're on the ground, the distance from the back of the helipad to the ground is only 2 feet, 2.5 feet. And it's also very convenient to load up and unload big loads. Very simple cockpit. The only navigation aid we had was a magnetic compass and a gyro compass. That's it. And there's no autopilot. It's all manual flying. And it had a piston engine, but very reliable, very reliable. Throughout the war, it didn't let us down at all. Our payload was 1.5 tons. We were carrying anywhere from 2 tons and above. And we had a gauge showing the pitch angle of the rotor blades. 8.5 degrees was the maximum we were allowed to go. If you go more than 8.5, the rotor starts dropping. So we used to come to 8.5, and as long as we were just off the ground or just getting off the ground, that is good enough for us. And we'll hover along the ground, 1 inches off the ground, and hit transition, and then get airborne. And I was the oldest in my. I'll just show you some more pictures. Wait. These are the youngsters with me on the left-hand side. The gentleman in the middle is Doc Sridharan. He was 19. And all the others were at 22, 23. Doc Sridharan probably had about 500 hours of experience. He just joined us about a year earlier, but he was fully operational. When the war was imminent, like the previous speakers told you, our Eastern Air Command especially told us do a lot of no-level flying and do a lot of night flying. And that's what we were doing. And I had specifically told all my pilots, I want you guys to go through the trees, 10 feet off the ground and all. And this is legal. Earlier on, people were doing it illegally. So now they were doing it legally. And they were so happy to be able to do that, go through the trees, go on, whatever low-level flying they could do. Most of the flying for October, November time, we did low-level. And then night flying, we did a lot of night flying. And I made sure everybody was fully trained and fully experienced in night flying. We did a lot of landing without any aids at all. And so we were quite ready by the time the war started. And this another picture of some of my pilots and engineers. These are the senior officers with me. General Sagar Singh, of course, everybody knows. And let me point out right from the beginning, if there was no General Sagar Singh, there would have been no Bangladesh, 100%. It was just his vision that we'll go to Dhaka, and it was his vision that took us to Dhaka. And of course, he had a wonderful group captain with him, Chandan Singh, whose main job was kilo flight. He was made in charge of kilo flight to train the Bengalis who had defected from Pakistan Air Force. And he and his team were training them at Dimapur. When the war started, or just before the war started, they all moved to Kumbhigram, and they were sitting in Kumbhigram. And when the war was going to be imminent, Group Captain, General Sagar Singh invited Sagar Singh to come to Telimora and told him, you take over my ME force, they're just coming. And that's another thing Sagar Singh did. He requested Indian Air Force and requested Indian Army, 1 unit of helicopters should be attached to him. So 110 became part of Indian Army 4 Corps. The only difference was we were wearing blue overalls, and that's it. But otherwise, all the instructions were coming directly from the Army. So we didn't have to go through Eastern Air Command and get permissions and all to fly. So everything was happening automatically. And Squadron Sandhu, who was my CO, was in charge of our operation. But when Group Captain Chandan Singh turned up and Sagar Singh said, you take over my ME force as well, that made a huge difference to us, because when Group Captain talks to Eastern Air Command, it is far better than a squadron leader speaking to Eastern Air Command. And he could get things done much quicker. So, and of course, by December, Group Captain Chandan Singh was virtually redundant because the kilo flight was fully operational. So he had no work to do. So when he suddenly saw ME force, 12 of them, he was so thrilled to have something to do during the war. And so he was very happy to take us over. And we got on so very well with us. The other 2 CEOs with me were Squadron Kriapa 111 and Squadron Chabra 105. 110 joined on the 3rd of December itself, and the 105 4 helicopters came from Chabua, and they joined us on the 6th of December, and Kriapa's 2 ME force came from 111, they joined us on the 10th of December. This is my diary, which I kept throughout the war, and I've given it to Squadron Rana to keep it in his archives over here. That's the diary I kept. The aircrafts I had, the pilots I had, and what they were going to be doing the following day. And on the left-hand side is the details of all the pilots and engineers we had on board. This is the map of East Pakistan, and you can see the aircrafts marked all the way around. That was all mostly fighter aircrafts based at different places. We were well defended, Air Force-wise, to take on East Pakistan. And when the war became imminent and the refugees started coming out, Army had established a lot of camps all the way around, and they were picking up able-bodied men and women and started to train them. Any smart men and women were sent south of Sikkim to do the officer training, Mukti Bahani officer training. So all the training was going on, And some of our own Bengali officers also joined Mukti Banis to help them whenever they needed inside. Main job, Mukti Bani, was to give sleepless nights to the Pakistanis, and they achieved it very well. And of course, the kilo flight job was to do it from the air. They were also Mukti Bani of the air. When the war started, 3rd of December, we were asked to disperse from Kumbigram in case sabers come and attack Kumbigram. 4 ME-4s came to Telimara, which is over here next to Agatala, and the other ME-4s were dispersed elsewhere. And first things Sagat Singh did was get hold of Akura, because Akura was attacking Agatala, so we couldn't use Agatala. So I think on the 5th of December, Indian Army was able to capture Akura, and Agartala became available. So all our helicopters moved to Agartala. All of us had just one bedroll. We used to roll it up and leave it on the side of the wall. And our fuel was based at Agartala. Our engineers were based at Agartala. So, and there was no point in moving fuel around, because far more difficult if you go somewhere else and start refueling with a pump and all that. And it was far better to come back to Agartala. So in spite, and that is what we did. And the briefing I had given my pilots was, as soon as we land at Agartala, hand over the helicopter, run to the toilet, because that's the only place we had a toilet, run to the food, that's the only place we had food, and go to sleep. Because we were working 24/7. So everybody was getting 10 minutes sleep, 15 minutes sleep, 20 minutes sleep, that's it. And every time they were sleeping, somebody would come and wake up, your aircraft's ready, go. And literally, we were sleeping 15 to 20 minutes at a time. And it was usually very deep sleep. Nobody, because we were so deprived of sleep. So every time we hit the bed, we were off to sleep in no time at all. So 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th December, when the war started, our job was normal helicopter operation, casualty evacuation, pick up dead bodies, supply arms and ammunition, supply troops, and take the general or brigadier or colonel, whoever wants to go around to show them to his people. And that's what we did. And casualty evacuation and picking up the dead bodies was top priority. We always kept 2 or 3 helicopters on the ground at Agartala for that reason. And every time we got a message, casualty or somebody's died, we will get airborne literally within 4 or 5 minutes. And while we were going, we'll carry arms, ammunition, food, whatever the army needed at the other end, because everything was available. Everything was kept at Agartala. So literally within 5 minutes of getting our message, we were airborne, and we'll pick that people up. And we didn't want dead bodies also in the field. We wanted to bring them so that we could give them proper rights as well. So on the 7th morning or 6th evening onwards, we were told we need 8 helicopters to go and help move 4 or 5 Gurkhas from Kalora to Sylhet. So from Agartala, we flew to Kalasha. We took 8 helicopters with us. We parked ourselves there. When we reached Kalasha, we discovered the kilo flight had already arrived at Kalasha. So they had 3 of their aircraft there, Twin Otter, Albert, and a Dakota. And AOP flight was also there. They had 1 of their aircraft. So 4 aircraft and 8 of ours. So you can imagine, Kalasha is a tiny little field, Second World War field. It's chock-a-block. Anyway, we landed there, and there's no toilets or food or anything like that. And one of the squadron was made in charge of, from the kilo flight, was made in charge of food and everything. And we managed to somehow squeeze in. We thought we'll only be there for a day. We ended up 2 days roughly over there. So at Kalasha, 9 o'clock in the morning, we reached. Squadron Sandhu was taken by Brigadier Quinn and Group Captain Chandan Singh to show the helipads where we were going to take off from and where we were going to land. So they saw Kalora, big open fields. It was all, the crop had been cut, so the fields were big open. And from after Kalora, they went to saw the Sylhet. Sylhet helipad they picked was just outside the town, across the river. I'll show you the helipad. That is the landing zone we picked. And in the middle, Sylhet is where the garrison, Pakistani garrisons were. So we picked that helipad, which is just outside small arm fire. So, go back again. And so at midday, we were told to go to Kalora. We sat down at Kalora. We were waiting for 4 or 5 Gurkhas to turn up. And 4 or 5 Gurkhas had been given a day off. And Colonel Hurulka was told by Sagat Singh, no day off, cancel day off. Let them come. I want them to go to Sylhet. So Colonel Hurulka went to wake them up, and by the time they came to Kalora, we were sitting there from 12 o'clock. It was all under Indian control, so there was no worry as such. We just shut down. So they started coming about 2:30. As soon as they came, and I briefed my pilots, we'll go line astern, one behind the other, 3 or 4 minutes gaps, because we didn't want more than 1 helicopter on the ground at Sylhet at any one time. but that would have given a bigger target to the enemy. And I got up in airborne at 2:45 and went to Sylhet, dropped my passengers, came running back. Second aircraft did the same. Third one did the same. By the time the fourth one went, the Pakistan army realized something is going on. They started surrounding us and they were firing at us. We could see hundreds of bullets coming towards us, but we just a kilometer out of range. All the bullets we could see would not reach us. Odd one somehow managed to reach the helicopter, made a hole, but didn't affect anybody, didn't scare anybody. The scary part was just seeing these bullets coming towards us. So by the time we went the second time, the number of bullets was increasing. And by the time we went the third time, we had fuel for three flights each. By the time we went the third time, it was getting dark as well, nearly 6 o'clock in the evening. In December in Assam, it gets dark early. And when it's dark, you can see the bullets, the tracer bullets even more. And when you see a tracer bullet, it means there are 4 more bullets behind it. So you can imagine the number of bullets that were coming towards us. And of course, Group Captain Chandan Singh was watching us from the top. So if I could see 100 bullets, he could see thousands of them, literally. So we came back and after we finished our 3 trips, we had dropped 254 soldiers. We came back to Kalashar to refuel and to get the aircraft service. And 2 minutes later, one of the engineers came, sir, only one helicopter not come back. So I called him up on the radio. And he was in a valley, next valley to the Kalashar, where the Kalashar runway was. There are little 100-feet top valleys over there. So I called him up on the radio. We fired a flare for him. He saw us and he came and landed. So we were all safe. And 7 o'clock in the evening, we got ready to start our next operation. So I went and told Chandan Singh, I'm ready to go. He said, no. We're not going now. It's too dark. It's too dangerous. You guys are too slow. You guys are too low. You will be shot down. You'll be like a sitting duck. I said, sir, we are ready. If you want us to go, we'll go. Otherwise, we'll wait. Brigadier Quinn hit the roof. He says, come on. Just because it is night, the war doesn't stop. You only dropped 250 soldiers. There are nearly 6,000 plus soldiers of the Pakistanis sitting there. Luckily for us, like they told you before, BBC announced we had dropped a brigade. And of course, Pakistanis didn't know because we were landing every 3-4 minutes. They didn't know how many people we dropped. So they didn't come anywhere near it. And Colonel Harulkar had arranged his army in such a way that it looked like a much bigger force than the 250 soldiers we had dropped. And they were firing at different times to give the same impression. So the Pakistanis never came closer to us. So the helipad was quite secure. Only thing was that when 4-5 Gurkhas were being taken, they didn't work out who's going to go first, who's going to go second, who's going to go third. They thought we'll just keep going till everything is delivered. They hadn't even taken the radio with them. So we had no contact with them. 254 soldiers had no contact with us. So powwow was going on between Group Captain and Brigadier. I also went off to sleep. I told my pilots, please go to sleep, catch whatever sleep you can get. I was also probably sleeping. 11 o'clock, I got a call. The Group Captain wants to see you. So I went and he says, we have decided, and they spoke to Sagar Singh as well, we decided we'll send 1 helicopter. If he goes and comes back, we'll send the rest. I said, I'll go myself. I came to the crew room, everybody's sleeping. I said, guys, I need 1 volunteer to come with me. 30-odd pilots put their hand up, all of them. We had all seen the bullets. Amazing. The Josh was so much. So I picked up Flying Officer Kant Reddy, and Brindra was our flight engineer. We got airborne just after midnight. We took the radio, took all the essential equipment and everything, and set course. Pitch dark, completely pitch dark. And we got airborne, and I'll show you the picture of that's my Me-4 done by Dave Gohen. And I've presented this to the USI as well. And when I got airborne, I knew where the river was, I knew where the bridge was, I knew where the helipad was, just a kilometer after the bridge, roughly. So that is daytime. Raat mein nazar aayega ke nahi aayega? I had no idea at all. But direction, magnetic compass, 20 minutes, I should be there. And as soon as I got airborne, I got a call on the radio. About time you guys came, what took you so long and all? This is Flying Officer Sharma. He was the liaison officer with the Indian Army. So he had the radio, and I was so glad to hear his voice. And I said, what is the situation like on the ground? He says, everything is quiet, everybody's sleeping, it's midnight. I'll light a fire for you. So that's the fire he lit for me. So as soon as I saw the fire, I said, I'll go straight for it. And when I was coming in, the amount of bullets that were coming towards us, hundreds and hundreds of bullets are coming towards us. I briefed my passengers. As soon as I land, I want everybody out, and I'll be airborne in 30 seconds. And that's precisely what we did. We landed, we dropped, and we got airborne. And I set course back. And I told my flight engineer, go and have a look how many bullet holes we got. I was sure there'll be at least a dozen or more bullet holes. And he went round with the light on, torch on, and he says, with a big smile, sir, not one bullet hole. I was flabbergasted. I was amazed. I said, the only reason we don't have a bullet hole, Pakistanis come see us. They're just firing in the air. So I called our base. I said, come on, guys, these people don't know how to fire. We're all going in. So all the other helicopters are getting ready. I came back. I picked up the next load. When running back again, dropped my next load. Again, I got airborne. Again, without any bullet holes. Came running back all the way. Picked up my third load. Running back again. Dropped my third load. This time when I got airborne, my fuel gauge was showing 0. My engine was running and my rotors were running. So obviously I had fuel. So 3 of us were praying to whoever was up there, please take us back home. We got back home and the engineers opened the panel and they saw one bullet had come through the engine and hit the cable going to the fuel gauge. It had slowed down enough, but it managed to hit the cable, broke the cable, and the fuel gauge was showing 0. So they replaced the cable. The bullet literally stopped where my finger is. It could have carried on for another 3-4 feet and it would have met me as well on the way. But it stopped there. They found the bullet as well, when they were changing the cable. So all the 4 helicopters I got ready, they started operating. My engineers changed the cable, put fuel in my aircraft, I joined them as well. So the whole of 8th night we were flying, the 9th morning we were flying, the 9th day, 8th day, whole day we were flying, 8th night, 9th morning, we got some artillery guns also from Brigadier Guraya, and we took some guns as well, and we took all their ammunition as well, their manpower as well. Total, roughly 900 people, and the guns we dropped by 9th morning, 9 o'clock, we dropped them there. And I went recently to 45 Gurukha's 60th anniversary at Pathankot, and I presented the original painting to the commanding officer there. So on 9th morning, we came back to Agartala, standard briefing. Everybody had been to toilet, had eaten their food and gone to sleep, and I was sleeping as well. 11 o'clock, I got a call from that General Sagar Singh wants to see you. So I went running out. He was in the Alvet. The 2 pilots sitting in the front, myself, my CO, and 1 brigadier was sitting in the back. We got airborne, and he wanted to show us the next helipad. After seeing how quickly and how efficiently we had worked at Sylhet, he said, now I know how to get to Dhaka. He wasn't, as he mentioned before, Brigadier Guraya, that going over the bridge would have been a waste of time even if he had captured it, because they would have had to fight the armed Pakistan army at Bere Bazaar. And that would have been horrendous. We would have lost so many things, so many people and everything, and it would have been taken us forever. So once he saw what we could do at Sylhet, he said, now I know how to get to Dhaka. So he said, I'll show you the next helipad. So he took us to Raipura. We were at 5,000 feet above the small arm fire. And he showed us the helipad. On the way back, we descended down. He said, this whole area south of Ashuganj is under Indian control. So we came down to 1,000 feet. Certainly we heard this noise, the bullets going right through the helicopter. I can still see so many of those bullets in the prospects of the Alvet. Alvet is a tiny little helicopter, 6-seater. So anyway, one of the pilots got injured on his shoulder, and one bullet went straight across Sagar Singh's forehead, and the co-pilot took over, climbed away, landed at Agartala, and later on they came to know there were 38 bullet holes in that helicopter. 1 person was injured. Sagar Singh had his scrape, and 4 of us, nothing happened. 19 bullets went through that helicopter. Absolutely amazing how they missed all of us. Somebody was watching us. So anyway, I got off. I got my crew ready, my aircraft ready. We had to be at Brahmabari at 4 o'clock. And so 3:30, 4:45, we landed there. We shut down. And we shut down. We looked on the riverside. We saw hundreds of dead bodies there. Men, women, children, the whole works. Like, such a shock to see all these dead bodies there. So we asked the local people, "Kya hua yahan pe?" And they said, "Sir, this Pakistanis, they were retreating. They gathered everybody and shot them." What and how and why, what gain do you get? I have no idea. I can't get my head around how human beings can do such things. Luckily, that is the only time I saw dead body, because the rest of the time we were flying, so we had no chance to shut down anywhere. So at 4 o'clock, I had 8 helicopters. I divided them into 2. The other thing which Army and Air Force, both of us realized that we should not be near enemy area, because Sylhet area was near enemy area and the bullets are coming. Occasionally, bullets would reach us as well. And in fact, one of the passengers got hit in one of the helicopters. So this time they made sure Raipura was far away from Bera Bazaar. We were about 25, 30 kilometers from Bera Bazaar. So we could see them firing towards us, but we were way out of reach of them. So I divided my helicopters into two groups of 4. And idea was that my group will go to land to Raipura and turn left and come back to Barambaria. The other group was going to be looked after by Jayaraman. He'll land at Raipura and turn right and come back. So the 2 helicopters could operate at the same time. And Raipura was a huge field, so there's no restriction of where we can land. And the forward air control had a lit fire for us when the night came as well, so it was always visible to us. The only briefing I had given all my pilots was no overshooting. We land, if the first helicopter is still on the ground, the second helicopter has to slow down or go left or right, because there was big space. He could land anywhere. So I landed. Group Captain Chandan Singh had come along with me. He wanted to see the helipad. So he had got off the helicopter and he was roaming around to have a look at the helipad. And so he took a little longer than expected. By the time he came in and I was ready to lift, my intuition told me to wait. And I waited. And this number 2 certainly saw me still on the ground because he didn't expect me to be at the ground. And he overshot. And he overshot right on top of me. If I had pulled up, I would have probably gone into him. So again, somebody was watching us. So anyway, the whole night we were operating. We came back to Agadala every now and then for refilling. Then 3 in the morning, when we were operating, one of the aircraft came to me, called up, sir, I got no passengers. Second one said, I got no passengers. 4 helicopters and no passengers. I said, guys, we'll shut down. We've been flying whole night. I'll have a look what's happening. I went there was Lieutenant Colonel there. I said, sir, kya ho raha hai? He says, I want all the 8 helicopters for my unit. I said, sir, you're delaying the war effort. We just shut down for you. 10 minutes were wasted already. Come on, let's go. I can't go empty aircraft just because you want all the 8 helicopters. So anyway, he started loading up and then whole night we had no problem. The next day we had no problem. By 9th evening, we had delivered nearly 900 soldiers at Sylhet and we'd come back to Agartala. Again, standard briefing. Everybody is fast asleep. I got a message from Chandan Singh, come, I'll show you the next helipad. Because Raipura had gone so well, and of course, 4 guards and everybody else who we dropped were instructed, because there was no enemy there. And as he said, there were railway wagons and buses and cars and whatever they could grab, they grabbed. And they were told, go toward Narasingdi by Sagat Singh. So everybody was moving toward Narasingdi. And Sagat Singh came, I'll show you the next helipad I want you to go. So he took us to Narasingdi, he showed us Narasingdi. And we were told 10th morning, we should get airborne first light, 5:30 in the morning. So 9th night, after we had finished all our operation to Raipura, we were told to go to Brahmaparia, sleep the night there. 60 of us, pilots and engineers with the helicopters, 10 helicopters ahead. We landed there, we shut down, we went to sleep. There was no khana, there was no toilet, there was nothing. Hall was probably half the size, the 60 of us were sleeping there. Anyway, we got airborne at 5:30 in the morning and we operated to Narasingdi. And throughout the day, and because it's a longer distance, 40 kilometers, taking longer for us, we had to come more often to Agartala for refilling. So 10th, 11th, and 12th December, 1,000 soldiers, again, we moved to Narasingdi, along with the guns, along with the equipment, along with the food, along with whatever else we needed. So once that finished, we again were in Agartala fast asleep. I was woken up again by Chandan Singh, come, I'll show you the next helipad. So he showed us Dadakundi over there and Badya Bazar. And that sector was very short. So we were told we at Dadakundi on the 14th morning at 7:30. So 12 helicopters arrived at Dadakundi at 7:30 in the morning and we shut down, waiting for the Indian Army to turn up. And as you can see, Dadakundi is so close to Dhaka. Of course, wherever we went, Indian Army made sure there was some contingent of Indian Army looking after the helipad. Not a big contingent, but definitely a contingent of Army was there. So they were looking after us, but the locals were wonderful, absolutely wonderful. They would come and brought lots of food for us, bananas, fruits, whatever, and boiled eggs, and we were giving them money. And they were so surprised that we were giving them money because Pakistan Army had never given them any money. They just grabbed whatever they could get. And the other thing, which I forgot to mention, wherever we went, Pakistan Army had been running away. And so much arms and ammunition were lying around. All my pilots and engineers were picking up souvenirs and putting them in the helicopter. I had no problem with the souvenirs till I discovered someone had picked up grenades and they had stuck them into belts. I say, hey guys, one bloody thing comes out, we'll all be blown up. So I said, give me all your grenades. And I said, anytime you find a grenade, please go and give it to the Indian Army. And that's exactly what we did. We gathered all the grenades, and then all of them were handed over to the Indian Army. So anyway, we were waiting from 7:30 to 10:30. 10:30 army started arriving. We started our operation. And so 14th and 15th, about 12 or 1300 soldiers, we dropped at Badya Bazaar. And so we came back, and then in the evening of the 15th, we came to know that the ceasefire is taking place. So we all celebrating, and there's nothing to do, chit-chatting and everything. And this is the painting, which again I'd given to USI as well. And Group Captain Dave Goen has done this, and we made about 150 copies, and we distributed them to whoever asked us, everybody, whoever, it's in ND as well, it's in Staff College as well, it's in it's IMA as well, and at least 150 people. And this is the best one. Our air chief had gone to Dhaka 2 weeks ago, and he presented this painting to the Prime Minister of Bangladesh. Absolutely, I was so thrilled to see my painting being presented to the Prime Minister of Bangladesh. Some pictures, you've probably seen them with Brigadier Groya as well. Similar pictures. Now we are flying 4 helicopters at a time because there were no enemy at all, And Colonel Bal's picture you've seen before, on the 13th of December, he started firing into Dhaka. These are the figures of what we airlifted. And these are very conservative figures. I think we carried much more than this. Again, throughout the war, we had no weighing scale. We had no manifest to make. Nobody weighed anybody. We just guessed. 10 people are sitting. We just guessed 1,000 kilo hoga, 1,500 kilo hoga, and that's what I was writing in my diary. And Wing Commander Uni Kata was able to ring up every army unit and find out what information they had in their archives. So they gathered that as well. But still, I think these are very conservative figures. But still, what 5,000 people carried, nearly 800 tons of equipment carried, 518 trips, 451 hours of flying. And I alone did 94 sorties throughout the war in 9 days. And all the pilots probably did almost the same number of flights. It was incredible. And nobody was tired. Nobody was hungry. The josh was so much to carry on finishing our work. And we are always ahead of the army because we were flying and getting there. They had to come by road or transport or whatever. So we were always waiting for the army to catch up. But we never delayed the army because helicopters were not there. Absolutely incredible. And these are the tanks, like General Grayasa mentioned. They swam through the river and came over to Dhaka. They were already standing outside Dhaka. By the time our soldiers, which we had delivered, were sitting outside Dhaka, 3,000 plus soldiers. Then the Tangail drop happened. The people from there also turned up, and everybody was. And of course, our Indian Air Force fighters went and thrashed the hell out of the governor's house. And of course, they had blown up the runway as well. So Pakistan Army, literally by the 13th, 14th December, were on their knees. They were ready to give up, especially when the Meghna crossing happened. When Niazi came to know, and I was reading Sagar Singh's book, when Sagar Singh asked Niazi, when were you ready to give up? He says, when I saw you guys had crossed the Meghna, I knew that it's going to be finishing very quickly. Because they were waiting for UN to wake up. They were waiting for the Americans to wake up. They were waiting for the Britishers to wake up. Sagar Singh was waiting to go straight to Dhaka, and his aim was to get to Dhaka before anybody wakes up, before the world wakes up to the war. And that's what he was able to achieve, because they were waiting for the 7th Fleet to turn up, they were waiting for the Britishers to turn up to help them. But we got there before, and General Jacob went in his little Alvet unarmed to Dhaka and told Niazi, either you surrender or you die. Indians don't have to kill you, we'll let the Bengalis in, they'll do the work. And if we had let the Bengalis in, all 93,000 soldiers would have died, for sure. Because the whole year, the Pakistanis have been killing them and making life hell for them. So when Jacob arrived, he was ready to surrender. And that's the surrender picture which you've seen everywhere. And 16th morning, I was told 5 ME4s will be taking all the reporters and 5 LVs will be taking all the VIPs. And I was told only the pilots flying will be going. I said, yes, sure. I had 25 spare pilots and engineers. I gathered them. I said, listen, 5, 5, 5 each get in first. Then I'll load up the reporters, because we had put our life on the line. And I didn't want any of my pilots or engineers to miss once in a lifetime surrender ceremony. So I smuggled 25 of my pilots and engineers to Dhaka, and we were able to see the surrender ceremony. And it was wonderful, absolutely. We landed about 3:34 in the afternoon, and so many vehicles were there to take us there. You know, the locals were so more than happy to take us to the Maidan, and they were so happy to shake hands with us and hug us and everything. And it was just like the movies, Second World War movies you might have seen, where the Americans went into Paris and everybody was hugging them and so happy to see them. So they were so happy to see us. And this is the Alouette which he was talking about. It's got the rocket launcher on the side and the gun, and the Twin Otter had the same thing. And they were the first ones to attack Bangladesh. They went to Chittagong and another place on the 3rd of December as a symbolic gesture. We told the Bengalis, you attack first before the Indian Air Force takes over. And that's what the Alouette and the Twin Otter did. And they came back. They were very successful. They blew up the fluid tanks at Chittagong and at one more place. And there's a company in Mumbai making a movie, and they've already been collecting information for last year and a half. And director and producer, I met them. Vikramaditya Motwane, I believe is quite well known, and that's him standing over there. I gave him the same presentation on the 3rd of January, and they're so happy to see me. And I said, what Air Force movie are you going to make? He said, only your helicopter operation. Because if fighters are coming, then helicopters get discarded and nobody looks at helicopters. So he's only going to make the helicopter part of the operation, which I was so thrilled about. That's me finished, and that's the book which has come out, which is available on Amazon. And I brought 2 copies to present to you guys as well. I've already given Rana a few months ago. And it's my pleasure. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you very much, sir.
And there's one YouTube, I put Push Ved on YouTube. If you want to ask question answers, I've given there, all about the Bangladesh war, which I've just told you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll save the Q&A for the end. I'll now request Air Marshal Vikram Singh to make his presentation on Indian Air Power in East Pakistan.
Now that the helicopters have gone, the fighters have come in, sir. The fighters at the receiving end today. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege to be here at USI, and for once I'm on this side of the mic. Are you able to hear me? The back. So this is the boring part. The people who took part and all the exciting things have been discussed, and it is with great humility, I must say, that I can't expect that my presentation be any better than the people who actually took part. And I was only, I think, 8 years old at that time. So this slide was supposed to be a hidden slide. This was supposed to be shown later, but anyway. The name of my presentation is Indian Air Power in East Pakistan, although Indian Air Force in East Pakistan. I will discuss a little bit about the Navy and the Army. So as already discussed, what were the strategies and the forces involved, and has already been mentioned that what India didn't want at all ultimately took place, and we were faced with a 2-front war. There was actually 2.5 front, because we were also expecting the Chinese would do something, and a sizable amount of our forces were also arrayed in Sikkim against possible intrusion, or at least mobilization by the Chinese in the north. Like 6 Div was held back, and MiG-21s were held back at Tezpur, and Hunters were held back at Bagdogra, and did not take part in East Pakistan. So the main focus, of course, was East Pakistan. The idea was to grab some part of land so as to allow an interim Bangladeshi government to take over. That was the first plan. And the hope was that that's all that we could do. The Pakistani plan was, of course, exactly opposite of what the Indian plan was. And their plan was not to allow the Indians to take any reasonable parcel of land. Most of this, of course, was supposed to be done by the refugees. We had almost 10 million of them by the time the war started. And Indian hopes was that we would hand over to a moderate Bangladeshi government at the end. There was no plan really, at least in the beginning, of taking over the whole of East Pakistan. And certainly there was no plan to go for Dhaka. So Niazi's plan, and surprisingly, till the end, the East Pakistanis never thought the Indians would actually invade East Pakistan. They thought that they would keep nibbling and take that little patch of land in the north, just south of Sikkim, which is where the chicken's neck is. And everybody thought that we would like to straighten that out because that's a very narrow patch of land and very enticing for the Chinese to take that and block off the entire portion of eastern India. So this was a wrong assumption on the part of Niazi in the beginning. So his plan was just to hold the forward positions. In fact, of all the 360 BOPs, he had planned to hold about 90 of those BOPs. And the plan was that once those were overwhelmed, he would keep falling back on fortresses and finally try and defend Dhaka. The Indian Army's plan, as has already been brought out, was, of course, after their experience at Hilli, because the Hilli battle surprisingly lasted 9 days, from 24th of November till almost the 9th, and the Indians realized that there is no way that we can actually frontally take on the Pakistan army, because they had so much time to build up defenses. They had actually taken railway bogies and dug them into the ground and also covered them with concrete. So as later the Indian Air Force would learn that we had no weapon that could actually destroy all the defenses. So it was the right decision to take that we would just bypass them and encircle them and go straight for the Dhaka bowl. The idea in the beginning was just to secure the line up to the Brahmaputra, which is known as the Jamuna River here from the west, and to the east to go up to the Meghna River, which is marked here. So Bangladesh practically is divided into 3 parts, which is west of the Jamuna, the central region, and east of the Meghna. There is another river which we call the Ganga, which they call the Padma, which breaks up the western sector into the northwest and southwest. So the force levels, East Pakistan had 4 divisions plus they had put together a lot of the paramilitary forces to make up a 5th division. They had 1 squadron. They had lost 2 sabers just before the war. They'd both gone into the Ganga in accidents. And the Indians had almost 7 divisions. The Indian Air Force had on the 10 squadrons. Now, many people ask that if the main threat was in the west, why did we keep so many squadrons in the east? And one of the main reasons was that it was a race against time. And it is all very easy to say that numerically we had 10 squadrons and they had 1 squadron, but in the air, things don't work like that. And most importantly, none of the Indian aircraft could reach Dhaka with any reasonable weapon, as long as they were flying low, which they had to do in the beginning because we estimated that they would have radar warning. They had 1 radar left, which they had hidden very well. They had hidden the radar in the zoo, just outside Mirpur in Dhaka. So for the first 4 days of the war, we were going in level, at low level. And as I'll explain later on, we had no weapon really to take out these sabers on the ground. So as has been discussed earlier, from the west, there was supposed to be 2 corps, then 33 corps, then headquarters of the 101 area from the north. This was the area actually considered to be the fastest because all the rivers, as you've seen, flow north-south, and they had no real obstacle to their advance in the central sector. And 4 corps in the east having the maximum rivers, and Meghna being the widest river, nobody ever expected that 4 corps would reach Dhaka first. Although it was 2 para that reached Dhaka first. So surrounding East Bangladesh airfields, we had Kumbigram, we had Tezpur, we had Guwahati, we had Hashimara, we had Bagdogra. We had appropriated a civil airfield at Panagarh. We placed Su-7s there, and also we had appropriated Dum Dum. And we had Kalaikunda, and 800 kilometers away, we had Gorakhpur, where the Canberras were based, and Agartala. Now, Agartala we didn't activate in the beginning because we wanted to retain surprise. And we were sure that it was within RT range. So until the enemy artillery could be sorted out, we did not move any aircraft there. Ultimately, 24 Squadron on NATS would move there after the 6th of December. So this is basically a breakdown of what aircraft are operating from where. And as already brought out, we had 3 Mi-4 units, 2 Chetak units, 3 Dakota squadrons, 1 squadron at Guwahati on the Caribou, 1 auto squadron also at Guwahati. And the Indian Army had 2 Army Aero-P units flying the Krishak and 3 Army Aero-P units flying the Chetak. The Indian Navy had, of course, Vikrant. It had 19 Seahawks on board. It had 8 Alizés on board. But it only fetched up at around 11 o'clock on the 4th. The first aim was to carry out a strike at Cox's Bazar. And because they couldn't reach off this way, Chittagong, the Indian Air Force was forced to actually carry out the first strike. And as you can see, it had been decided that the Navy would operate below 22 degrees 25 minutes south of this, and Indian Air Force would operate north of this. This was the only way found in those days because we didn't have the communications, etc., to make sure that there was no fratricide and there was absolute freedom to operate in your own zones. Okay, planning considerations for the Air Force. Like I had mentioned, it was a race against time. We knew that if a ceasefire came into effect, and this became very real around the 8th of December, that the resolution that has been moved by the Polish would get passed. The Soviets had passed 4 vetoes and managed to hold this off. And it was expected that there might be a ceasefire around the 8th or the 9th. The idea was to neutralize the PAF at the earliest, at their airfield at Tezgaon. And like I had indicated earlier, there was a dilemma considering the range, the payload that could be taken, and the threat at Dhaka airfield. So the threat meant that we had to go in at low level. If you went in at low level, your range would be reduced and you would have to take fuel tanks. You'd have to take drop tanks. Hunters would have to take 4 drop tanks. The MiG-21 had to take 1 drop tank, which meant that the payload was very little. In the beginning, we could only carry guns. So we were attacking the runways just with guns, just with bullets. Some of the aircraft could not even take rockets, which they did later on because they were able to climb. None of them could take bombs, which was the main weapon that was required to take out the runways. So there was a mismatch between the target and the weapon. And we were now forced to look for these sabers in their camouflage pens on the ground, which was the most inefficient and ineffective way of doing things. So the counter-air ops, of course, the first part is air defense. In the 65 war, the same squadron, the same Pakistani squadron, 14th squadron, had attacked all our airfields in the west. They had attacked Bagdogra, they had attacked Hashimara, and they had attacked Kalaikunda. Fortunately, this time they didn't attack any of our airfields, but we wasted almost 224 sorties on the first 3 days, hoping that these chaps would come. And in the west, as you can see, we flew 1,481 sorties, which was in caps, patrols, and sweeps. So 224 was not a low number. So air defense in the total war, west and east, was 1,705 sorties of a total of 6,764. So almost 1/4 of our flying was air defense. So offensive counter-air. Now, like I had mentioned, no aircraft could reach the complex of Dhaka because there were 2 airfields there. There was Kurmitola, which was being built up. We didn't know at the time, and the main airfield was Tezgaon. We could not reach at low level with any external payload except for MiG-21s that went at low level, but they set up a cap at 3 kilometers, so they had little extra fuel, but they could only take 2 air-to-air missiles. They had no air-to-ground weapons at that time. So initial attacks, surprisingly, were only with guns against the runways, which were made of concrete. Now, these sabers there, they were 22 blast pens. There were 14 sabers, all very well camouflaged. Now, the threat was there were more than 50 modern Chinese anti-aircraft guns. They were 37mm guns that could reach up to 14,000 feet. And a very, very capable gun, I think you show, a picture of this was shown at the end, the 14.5mm 4-barrel gun. It could put 1,000 rounds at 3,000 feet in 30 seconds with a dispersion of only about 300 meters. Very accurate, very high rate of fire. And we would learn later on that these were very, very capable guns. So the aircraft, the pilot had to pitch up into this dense anti-aircraft environment, had only about 20 to 30 seconds to look for these blast pens, see where the sabers are, aim, fire, and get out. It was not surprising, therefore, that of all the 22 blast pens, we could get only one saber in the ground. Now, this is a picture taken by a hunter at low level. You can see the cord gun parked there. There were 37 of these all along the airfield. This is a shot taken by the same hunter. At the lower, you can see this is the 14.5mm gun sight. There is a bheel on the other side, which they used to fill with water. They used to keep fish there. And surprisingly, when you expand the photograph, you see that these guys are not even looking at you. They're looking in the opposite direction. Of course, the hunter was doing 500 knots, so it must have been quite a surprise. So on the first day, on the 4th, when we went in at 7 in the morning, we flew 86 sorties against Tezgaon and Kurmitola, which is a rate of about 1 sortie every 2.5 minutes. This is a massive effort by MiGs and by hunters and Su-7s. On this first day, and the first day, when I say first day, it's only from 7:30 to 14:30. It's not the whole day. We lost 4 hunters. We lost 1 Su-7 because they were firing rockets on the second day, looking for these sabers. We were not able to achieve any damage to their runways. Fortunately, in air combat, when the sabers came up, we were able to shoot down 3 of them. The second day was a bombing halt called by the UN because they wanted to evacuate all the British and the US members of the UN. So the entire day was lost. And the Pakistanis were able to repair whatever damage was done to the hangars. But by then we had learned that the guns and rockets are not going to work. So we got a chance on the 6th morning to carry out bombing trials. Okay, this was the saber that we got on the ground. No Pakistani ever agrees that this was done. This is a picture with General Nambiar there on top. I think General Nambiar was ex-DG of USI. He was very kind to share this picture. This is a photograph of a UN aircraft because we were firing at any aircraft that we could see. But so this is a Porter that was also, they had 6 of them. We destroyed them all. These were the only aircraft which were parked outside. We couldn't see anything else. So on the second day, we realized that if we go in at night and they can't see us and roll in from 4.5 kilometers, which is 14,000 feet, and release this bomb at the height of about 1.2 kilometers, we would be able to stay outside the AAA and still achieve some kind of accuracy. Now, this is the M62. The M62 means a bomb made in 1962. It was the largest Soviet bomb at that time, 500 kg bomb. And as we would see later on, it did spectacular damage to the airfield. So the trials were first done in Kurmitola. Flight Lieutenant Manbir Singh and Flight Lieutenant Chandrasekhar. You can see the 2 craters. He got it on the runway and he got it on the link taxi track. The other craters happened later on. This picture is from the 8th December. These sets of 6 are bombs dropped by the Canberras because they carried 6 bombs. The MiGs used to drop them in pairs. These are the pairs which happened later on. So after this happened, we were quite sure that we'd be able to take out the airfield. And this is a picture taken by Canberra on the 8th, and you can see by then we had almost over 40 craters on the airfield. And the white circles are where all the ack guns are. And they knew where we would come from, they knew at what height we would come from, and in any case, there was an aircraft every three to 4 minutes. The fortunate part was that they ran out of ammo by the third day. They were firing continuously. And by the end of it, they were told that 37mm can fire only 3 rounds at a time, and the 14.5 can fire only 12 rounds at a time. And this is Kurmitola. Again, you can see the main runway is completely cratered, and the shorter runway, you can see the craters here. Fortunately for us, Tesgaon was a World War II airfield. The foundation was brick. It was not concrete. And there was only a thin layer of concrete on top. So this crater is something like 40 feet deep and something like 20 feet across. And these are, of course, the pilots who did this. They are all from 28th Squadron. That is the CO there, Wing Commander Vishnoi. And this is Manbir Singh, this is Bhatia, and this is Sardesai. So as soon as you switched to using this bomb, we changed tactics, we achieved immediate results, and we were able to put the runway out on the 6th morning, which is the 3rd day. But for all practical purposes, by 2:30 on the 1st day, that means the 4th afternoon, is the last time any Sabre got airborne from Tesgaon. They never got airborne after that, except for a brief mission to Komila on the 6th morning. But practically, by 14:30 hours on the 1st day of the war, we had achieved a favorable air situation. And I say this because they managed to launch 4 Sabres 2 days later. But practically, by 6th morning, within 48 hours, we had achieved complete air superiority. This allowed our own aircraft now to operate with freedom, and the Indian Army, of course, to operate with absolutely no fear of attack from the air. So, in the east, against the airfields, we flew 338 sorties, which included 280 by day. And when I say that we achieved this primarily at night. Most of these bomb attacks were carried out at night. The full moon was on the 2nd December. So when we were doing this on 6th and 7th, the moon was rising much later. The moon was rising after 9 o'clock at night. And of course, the illumination had also dropped to about 60%. So even though I say it myself, it was quite an achievement in those days. And of course, the Caribous also did carpet bombing. They had 500 kg bombs, and they used to drop about 12 of them from the back of the aircraft at night. So ultimately, we lost 5 aircraft, and 2 were lost in air combat to put those 2 runways down. So overall, 690 sorties were flown, including DIAD missions against the radar, which we could never get in both east and west, which was 10.14% of the total combat sorties flown, because the army keeps saying that the Air Force keeps running its own war and keeps doing counter air and keeps attacking the enemy's airfield, and they don't come to the support of the army. So here you can see that the counter air war was only 10% of the total. And it incurred a very high loss rate of 2.3. That means for every 100 sorties flown, we were losing 2.3 aircraft. Now, it may seem low. After all, what is 2.300 aircraft? And especially in the army, where the army is used to very high losses, I mean, like he was saying, in places like Sylhet, etc., we lost more than 100 troops. But 2.3 aircraft, when you have a total of 60 aircraft only, and from that, on a day-to-day serviceability, you may only have 50 aircraft. 2.3 is a fairly high rate. Then there was this issue that there were several ghost airfields in Bangladesh. As you know, the 7th Fleet was closing in, and we appreciated that the Americans might intervene, send helicopters to pick up the top brass of the Pakistan army. So we had to destroy all airfields within Bangladesh. Many airfields could only be seen at night because by day we couldn't see any traffic. At night they would use these lights and flash these lights hoping somebody would see them and come and pick them up. So most of these airfields were destroyed at night. So on the top left is Ishwardi, then Saidpur and Rangpur, which are all close to this way, Lal Munir Hat. Adai Hazar is close to Narsingdi, which you would talk just northeast of Dhaka. And it has a very nice reason for this name. When Maharaja Man Singh fought the Mughals in this area, Man Singh II, he left behind 2,500 troops to stay there. That is how the name of the place, became Dai Hazar. So there was an airfield there. You can also see the crater. And well in the south, in the Brahmaputra basin, there was an airfield by the name of Barisal. This was also destroyed by gnats. So the interdiction wise, there was no classic separation between close air support and interdiction. Close air support primarily was flown at places like Jamalpur and places like Kamalpur, where there was a siege of almost 9 days, and the Indian Army was waiting to go in and expected that the Indian Air Force would take on the fortresses. And like I mentioned earlier, they had built their bunkers underneath the railway station. So when you have this platform, which is 1 kilometer long, the bunkers were below the concrete. Not easy to find, and even if you did find them, there's no way to hit them, because at that time we didn't have the weapons. We only had rockets and we only had guns. So most of these fortresses remained intact, like you said, till the end. Many of them surrendered after the surrender in Dhaka. Like Khulna, etc., actually surrendered on 19th of December, much later. But we did not leave any transport, no railway transport, no road transport, no riverine transport. In fact, they were so rampant that the army said, please leave something. Don't destroy all the transport. So on the rivers, then the rule became that if you see a boat whose wake is less than twice its length, don't attack it, because that means it's not loaded. Only a boat with a wake of more than twice its length, the Indian Air Force was only going for those. So the total number of close air support was 326 sorties, just 16% of the overall. Now, so this is a two-core area. This has all been mentioned earlier. Two-core, the places in the orange are the areas that had already been captured by the 3rd of December. And the main fortresses here, of course, as you would remember, the Battle of Boira here, next to Chaugacha. And the main fortresses were places like Khulna and Jessore, Jhanida, and the ambush at a place by the name of Kushtia. When the Pakistanis were falling back, I think 22 Rajput were actually rushing forward with 6 tanks. And they didn't expect that a rear guard had been left on this side of the river. And all 6 tanks were lost, and over 100 troops were lost. And the Air Force was called in. And over the next 2 days, the Air Force, for the first time, used napalm. And in this area, the Air Force extensively used, for the first and the last time, we used napalm, because the undergrowth was so thick, there was no way to get these troops. And it was always that we used napalm to flush them out. And in the second dive, we would take them with guns and rockets. So Khulna was the place also. I've shown this blue arrow where the Navy came up all the way to Khulna to take out some of the boats. Unfortunately, we also had a fratricide because they were never to cross this line. And Indian Air Force Nats actually sank 2 of our own meaning Mukti Bahini boats, which were partially manned by the Indian Navy. So these are some of the shots taken by Nats. This is these barges are at a place called Narayanganj, and this is of course Khulna port. This is the large seagoing ships that were attacked with guns. So just north of Kushtia is the famous Harding Bridge. And unfortunately, this is what we call a bridge too late. The Pakistanis had more or less completely crossed across into the 16-day area, going to Nator and Bogra. But surprisingly, 221 squadron shown here on the Su-7, the Flight Lieutenant Mendarkar, one young boy, on his first dive and his first attempt managed to bring down the bridge. And this was a real rare happening because at the same time, the US Air Force in Vietnam was bringing down bridges with laser guided bombs. They had realized that with just dumb bombs like these, there's no way to take out. In fact, if you do a mathematical calculation, it would take over 200 bombs to take down a span, because the span is only 6 meters. The other important thing that happened for the first time, the Indian Air Force actually captured an enemy airfield and operated from it. So this was Jessore, one of the main. So Jessore fell on the 6th evening, and the Indian Air Force moved because the hunters were not able to reach Dhaka. And at that time, we expected there would be a long, drawn-out battle for Dhaka. So we wanted to move our aircraft forward. So one squadron moved to Jessore, but they moved on 14th. The war ended on 16th. They were only able to fly some missions on the 15th. But it's a unique thing that it has never happened before. So this is the northern, 33 core area. I, won't go through it, but all these fireballs that you see is where all the, interdiction was flown by the Air Force. And all the ferries, like places like Gaibanda, etc., Pulchadi and all these ferries were destroyed. The places in orange are, of course, the places that were already captured before the war started. Hilli, as you know, Hilli was not attacked by the Air Force because it was right on the border. It was within RT range. And Hilli, of course, the battle lasted for almost 9 days. And this is where we learned our lesson, that we have to bypass these fortresses and not go head on into them, because Hilli was never captured except on the 15th. These are some of the trucks and the convoys that we destroyed on the way. These are the trains. You can see 30mm hits on this. So this is from the northern sector, and so this is the Tangail, paradrop. Now this did not have a TAC. So 101 comm zone was directly controlled by Eastern Air Command. They had 100 sorties a day, and they could do what they wanted to do. And so the Indian Army had decided that they would leapfrog across from Jamalpur and land these troops here. Now, many people believe, like was discussed here, that these helicopter operations and Tangail operations was something that was done on the spot. The General Sagat Singh had decided on the spot that, oh, we've got helicopters, let's do this. But detailed op orders, operational plans, exercises, staff checks, staff tables had all been made in November. In fact, the drop at Tangail had been planned on 23rd November. It was first planned at night because we thought the Sabres would still be around. But of course, it went through at 4:30 on the 12th, and went through without, of course, like I said, the Indian Air Force was told that please leave some transport, because as he brought out, Brigadier Sant Singh was moving his 120mm mortars on bullock carts, because all the buses, all the trucks, all the trains had been destroyed by the Air Force. One of the other raids as part of the interdiction was the Joydepur ammo plant. The Chinese were trying to build a plant for them just northeast of Tesgaon. It is now, in fact, you won't find this name. I think it's called Ghazipur now. The name has been changed. So this is one of those strikes flown by MiG-21s, and also AIM-12. AIM-12 dropped 53,000-pound bombs on this. So you can see the factory is completely damaged. Although in the near term, it did not make any difference to the war, because by then we had almost reached the doorstep of Dhaka. So this is the paradrop. You can see this T, which is the landing zone just north of the Turag River here. This is the Pungli Bridge here. You can see here, and this is Tangail. Actually, you can see the Tangail jail is being built here, and these are the barracks on the side. So this was the DZ. This was the Battle of Pungli Bridge fought here. Indian Air Force hunters and Su-7s, they did a lot of work here. Over 15 sorties were flown in a matter of 1 hour. And this is Tangail airfield. You can see that the enemy has blocked it with drums. They put these, concrete filled drums on the runway so that we couldn't use it. But after the paradrop on the 12th and 13th, we carried out air-landed operations, because 2 para was running out of food and they were running out of ammo. So Caribous actually landed on this airfield to resupply them. This is a shot of the packet. So basically 51 aircraft, about 840 people dropped, all without mishap, except one sepoy, I think his name was Kurao. He got hung up. Now, the system is such that until all the strop lines are brought into the aircraft by the loadmaster, he does not know if anybody has not gone or he's hanging outside the aircraft because he can't see outside the aircraft. So at the end of it, when he pulled all the lines in, he found that this one soldier was hanging in the air. So the aircraft went back, did one more drop. Now he landed 7.5 minutes later. He fell 2.5 miles short of the DZ. So he continued to fight the war by himself. He joined up with the Mukti Bahini, wore a lungi. 2.5 months later, he joined up with his unit, with his weapon. He says, Saab, hatyar saath mein hai. So that was the only one mishap. This is, of course, the breakdown of what the table was. This is a picture shown earlier. So I will not go into this. This is just a detail of this, I think, Silhet. The problem here was that after 45GR was dropped, they were exposed in the open for 7 days. Because the link up by 55GRs from the north, from Hemu, and the BSF troops from the north got delayed by 7 days. Although the Indian Air Force, as you can see, these fireballs, they kept helping them all the way through. But there were so many blocking positions, it took them 7 days to reach with 45GR out in the open. So continuously Indian Air Force had to keep attacking. Sylhet, basically there was one mosque, there was one bank, and there was one circuit house where most of the 3 brigadiers were parked. And there was one bridge, which was King Bridge, and we were hoping to hang on to that so that the troops could cross from the south to the north, but that was blown up by then. So we continued to support them, and they were not, let's say, molested at all because Indian Air Force kept the Pakistani troops heads down. We almost lost a caribou because caribous were dropping arms at night at low level. You can see this blue path, and one of them was shot up, and he had a fire. He lost his engine, and he force landed, and he went to next to Silchar. There's an airfield called Kumbigram, which was not prepared to accept him at night. So the base commander called everybody with their scooters and their jongas and parked them next to the window, next to the runway to light up the runway. And he managed to land. Of course, he later on became a minister. Mr. Pilot, what was his name? Rajesh Pilot. He was the captain of this aircraft. Then, of course, the landing in Raipura. I won't go into the details of this. These were the Narayanganj docks, which a lot of these steamers were set afire to. Sir, you had mentioned that the Brigadier Rahim Khan, when he was escaping, from Chandpur, General Rahim Khan, I'm sorry. At that time, there were 4 hunters from 14th Squadron that came over here. Now, Rahim Khan had been, sent a gunboat, and he had almost 6 other boats. There were about 100 troops of his headquarters that were escaping. So the hunters sank 4 of those boats. And General Rahim Khan was injured in this attack. And later on, he was in hospital, and he begged Niazi, and he was flown out before the surrender. He managed to escape in one of the Mi-8 helicopters. And we lost 1 hunter. He was the flight commander, squadron leader Sachdeva. He was killed in that attack. And his body was found in the river much later by Mukti Bahini. Of course, in the south, in the Chittagong area, this was mainly an area, air operations were carried out by ARC, not by the Air Force. But Air Force did one mission to Barkal. That was here against Lal Denga and his boys who were being supplied by the Pakistanis here. Otherwise, the Air Force did not do much except to strike the Chittagong oil storage. You can see the airfield here and these oil tanks burning. This was attacked by Canberras. So counter-surface force operation, if you just see the east, we flew a total of 1,322 sorties, which was 38% of the total flying done. And an attrition rate, we lost 7 aircraft, or about 0.52. This is not bad in the overall picture. As far as is known, Pakistan Air Force flew about 22 sorties total. Now, what happened in the end game in Dhaka? So, the Governor House attack. Now, many of us know that our boys based at a place called Jafarpur, which is next to Barakpur, were listening out to all, Pakistani telephone calls and radio calls and all. And they picked up a message that at 12 o'clock that day, the Governor's Council is going to meet. So he told his boss, told his boss, it went all the way to Delhi and it came back. And Eastern Command was told that you launch a strike between 12 and 12:20 at Governor's House. Now, this is a photograph taken by Canberra on the 8th. You can see, so this is the race course, which is known as the Ramna race course, where finally the surrender happened. And this is the Governor's House here, right here. This is a stadium. This is Dhaka University here. And the Dhaka cantonment is a little northeast of that. The airfield, Tesgaon airfield is here. This is the Intercontinental Hotel. I think he showed a photograph of that, where the entire foreign press was. And that was, considered to be a safe zone. And Indian Air Force had been told not to attack that hotel. And they could see everything over the airfield because they had a view of the airfield, both the airfields from there. So this is the Governor's House. So 4 MiG-21s from Guwahati. They were briefed on a tourist map. In those days, there used to be an AA, an automobile association. Wherever you went in the world, if you were driving, you knew where there was a petrol pump, where was repair. They were just shown that map, that this is likely where the Governor House is going to be. And they were briefed. So the 4 MiG-21s took this hall at the back, where the meeting took place, and 4 hunters took this domed area in the front, when the meeting was taking place. So these are the pictures. So this is how the rockets went through, and this is the conference hall. All the fans came to the ground, the entire room was on fire, the furniture was burnt, the carpets were burnt. And there were 2 of the pilots after the war, and you can see they have a plaque in their hand which says Governor's House. And these 2 plaques, of course, with the squadron at the moment. So this is Bishnoi and that is Bhatia in front of the Governor's House. Next was the Pakistani army, now being hounded, by the Mukti Bahini, had all escaped into the cantonment and into the university, which all the students had been killed on 25th of March, and all the halls and hostels were empty. And you can see the trenches that they had dug. This once again is an aerial shot by Canberra. You can see these W-shaped things. These are all their trenches. So we flew another 58 sorties. So on 14th, when the nearest Indian Army unit, with all due respect, I don't mean to, let's say, belittle anybody, was still 55 kilometers away at Tungi and Sitalakhya River. After this attack, the governor told Niazi, and Niazi told Yahya Khan, please let me surrender. And Niazi had been fighting with Yahya Khan the previous 4 days, let me surrender, after the 6th. And it was at this point where Yahya Khan accepted. He says, okay, go ahead and surrender. So this is one instance of one tactical action that led to a strategic impact. This surrender, yes, we all agree that it was finally 2 para that came to Sabar, and at the bridge with 2 Sikh managed to cross and go and speak to them and ask them to surrender. But by 14th, Niazi had already fallen to his knees because of this one action. Secondly, 58 sorties flown after that kept up the pressure on him to agree to the terms of surrender. Although, yes, the RT guns were firing, but they were firing on the outskirts of Dhaka. And Niazi had already moved his headquarters. He had moved his bunker away. Surprisingly, on the 16th, one Canberra came and bombed that bunker, although we lost that Canberra. So there were 4 Canberras. And he was found again, and he was bombed again. And I would like to believe that in no small way, the Indian Air Force did manage to apply some pressure on him to surrender. So the highlights of the air war, like I said, air superiority was wrested within 7 hours, although for all practical purposes, it was on the 6th morning. And many people say that, well, they were only 14 aircraft, but they were very intrepid and a very spirited lot. They fought very well on the first day. We lost 3 aircraft in air combat. We made mistakes. Ultimately, we all accept that war is won by the side that makes the least mistakes. So I would like to believe that, yes, both sides made mistakes. We certainly made mistakes. One of the main glaring mistake was that the weapon to target matching was wrong. Not because we chose that weapon, but because the range of those airfields from our airfields was such that we could not carry any other weapon. Then was the threat. The extensive anti-aircraft fire that we faced. We lost 13 aircraft and 6 pilots, of which 2 were in air combat, over 2,912 sorties, which was overall a fairly okay attrition rate of 0.4 aircraft per 100 sorties flown. If you look at in the West, we lost 45 aircraft, which was a rate of 1.1 over 3,876 sorties. So the final surrender in East Pakistan was driven by 3 large armies, like has been brought out, 4 Corps, 2 Corps, and 101 headquarters from the north. The Navy blocked all the ports, destroyed all the shipping, no escape for them. And of course, the Air Force, was rampant from the top. That yes, if the fortresses could have been held, and they were held till say 19th, it can be easily imagined that Niazi could have converted Dhaka into a fortress. Certainly, the Indian Army had no plans. It did not want to fight door to door in Dhaka. No matter that the entire, let's say, Mukti Bahini was there. For the Mukti Bahini was there at Nator. They were there at Hilli. They were there at Bogra. But they didn't help. So I would like to believe that he had converted into a fortress, but he couldn't put a lid on it and prevent the Air Force from doing what it did. So the attack on the governor's house and the subsequent resignation of the entire civilian, the civil government was a classic case of a tactical action that I brought out earlier, having strategic effects. Because after that, immediately, at least the civilian government, the DGP, the DC, and the governor, they all resigned and ran away to this hotel. So like I said, never in history has one tactical action caused such an effect. It was a massive 48 sorties flown after that, 14th and 15th, that kept up the pressure. But certainly the first and biggest sign of impending defeat must surely have been the loss of Tezgaon airfield. The Pakistanis at that point, which was only 3 days into the war, must have realized that the end was very near. And any general would have realized that just 3 days into the war, that an army without an air force was as good as already defeated. This is the roll-wise flying. I mean, these are all a matter of detail. The Pakistanis flew a total of 2,941 sorties here. Indians flew 11,564. And west and east you can see, and you will see here, as has been brought out, helicopters in the west flew 827. In the east, we flew 1,972. More than double of what was flown in the west, thanks mainly to Pushpawait sir and his boys. So these are actually combat sorties. I'm not talking about the sorties that were flown within India during the war. These are actual combat sorties in enemy airspace. That brings me to the end of my talk, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Air Marshal. And I will now, with your permission, sir, throw the floor open for any questions that anybody has. Mic le aayega. Mic le. Yes, please.
My question is to Air Marshal Vikram Singh, sir. Good afternoon. My name is Satyajit Lal. I have a question for Air Marshal Vikram Singh, sir. Sir, publications such as Eagles of Destiny and In the Ring and On Its Feet have described the operations of 14th Squadron Pakistan Air Force as a fearless last stand, despite the fact that they didn't fly beyond the afternoon of 4th December and only a single mission on 6th December. Do you agree with this assessment?
Yeah, that's what I said. I said, although they were small, very spirited, very intrepid, but when they realized that they didn't have an airfield, they gave up. And in fact, they all escaped. They all escaped to Burma and then went back to West Pakistan through China. But they reached much after the war was over. So they didn't play any part in the war. But yes, it was a fearless last stand. They could easily have not flown, but they did.
Thank you, Sir Chair. Firstly, my compliments to USI and the Air Force for organizing this seminar. I had the honor and opportunity to be in this war with 101 Comzone as G2 Ops right from the day the war started till the surrender ceremony was organized by me in Dhaka on 16th afternoon at 4 o'clock. Besides that, I'm only touching on the Air Force point of view. It goes without saying that the 71 war, at least in the Eastern Theatre, was very well organized, orchestrated, and mutually supported by the Air Force and the Army in each theatre, whether it was 101 Comzone, which has only 4 battalions, or it was 4 corps or 2 corps. The planning, both for ground as well as the paradrop operations, as I mentioned earlier, had been carried out once the decision at the national level had been taken that the Eastern Theatre has to be tackled first and with strength. Therefore, from 101 Comzone, though we were located alongside with the Air Force, we had no demand from them as far as the air effort was concerned, because we knew we are on the last priority. But we had very good relations with the Air Marshal, Diwan, and his Air One at that time, I think Air Commodore, forget the name, it may come. No, he became an Air CNC and passed away 2 years ago. The transport pilot, I forget his name. Anyway, the point was that the support, whenever we wanted to us before the paradrop, it was not available. And in fact, I spoke to him because we were held at Jamalpur, where he mentioned we had to come and bring first Maratha, Jangi Paltan. They went in bullock carts and crossed the Jamuna and came and established the block at the back. And where you said 31 Baluch, they tried to, Sultan Ahmad was their CO, a very brave soldier once again, and he fought till the end. But only two issues which I could never understand at that time was that even if the Air Force was coming back, the fighters were coming back after carrying out a sortie on the airfield at Dhaka or other places, why couldn't they support us also at Jamalpur? And we made this special request. They said, please wait, we will see. And sure enough, as promised, in the evening when the aircrafts were returning, they still had the ammunition, they still had the fuel. They did carry out the runs on the Jamalpur bridge, which did upset the defenses of the Jamalpur defenses. As regards the paradrop was concerned, you mentioned that Rifleman Mahadev Gaurav, he had a hang-up case. And I was very worried. I had to declare him waiting for the SITREP to say that he is not known, missing belief, killed. And sure enough, after 24 hours, he got a message that he is alive, and he became a Subdar Major. He was ADC to the President of India before retiring from the army. Very brave soldier. But the Air Force must be given full marks for that paradrop at QP 9296 was the grid reference, which was top secret plan at that time. So it was stuck in my head. It doesn't go out now, even though I have retired nearly 25 years ago, 30 years ago. The only thing I could not understand was that the Air Force went to damage the Dhaka airfield. With the result, even after surrender, when we wanted to evacuate Niazi and his party, the airfield could not be used by a Caribou. So it was on my shoulders to ask Mukti Bahani to fill the crate so that Caribou would come. And the first Caribou which we landed, we loaded up these fellows because their lives were in danger even after surrender. And of course, now I understand why. And the only action I could take was to take out the Air Force officers who had been taken prisoners by them after those who were shot up, and then hand them over to our troops to come back. And must compliment the Air Force for the strength, determination, and the advanced planning and detailed cooperation they extended to the Army in Eastern Theatre. Thank you.
General Bhatnagar, sir.
So firstly, I must thank USI for exposing us to the Air Force. We in the Army don't get very much to hear about them, but you see them. And what I've gained from here is the intricate planning that goes into the air operations. Or we see this in the various courses of instruction. But the practical way in which it has been carried out and the Indian Jugaad that came out was amazingly good. And I must compliment the Air Force on this. And the Air Force Army cooperation that took place especially in Bangladesh, was amazingly good. General Sagat has been mentioned quite often. I would like to inform the audience also that he is the one who also, as a brigade commander, as a divisional commander, ensured that Natala is still with us. 1967, and Mizoram too, because as a GOC there, it was he who went into Mizoram and prevented the forces from taking over Mizoram. The other thing about General Sagat is, you'll be glad to know that Jaipur has honored him greatly. There's a road which is named after General Sagat, and today we have a memorial for General Sagat where all his deeds are put. So a great salute to this great general who's been mentioned quite often here. I happen to be from the 5th Gurkhas. I've had an interview with General Brigadier Haralika, MVC, and also I've been in touch with General Cardozo and Ratan Kaul, who were the company commanders there, and who fought the Battle of Sylhet. So they have a great story to tell, and I'm glad my regiment, 45GR, has been mentioned, I would say, in this lecture profoundly. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Sir, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Firstly, my thanks to the USI and Brigadier Goraya for having told me about this wonderful seminar being conducted, and I'm fortunate to have joined all you all. I was part of the Unit 59 Mountain Regiment, which he has mentioned, which was a part of the 57 RT Brigade, and we did most of the actions which were covered, like training of the Mukti Bahini, later on the heli lift. In fact, I was the first one to be heli lifted from my unit with the guns. So I have described that in the book also by Commodore Bush. Sir, just my note to Air Marshal Vikram sir. So you mentioned about the radar that was at Dhaka. I happen to have gone there, sir, to recover the 4-barrel AD guns. In fact, my unit was given the task. We were in Dhaka for 3 months after we were on the outskirts, going on the special train, combat special. And we were in Dhaka for 3 months till we were told to move back. In fact, I was one of the youngsters that time, second lieutenant. We were told to recover those guns. In fact, at that time, what we found was that the Pakistani strategy was that whatever Chinese arms that they were getting, they were wanting to put a sort of, demarcation and put them all into Bangladesh. These guns, and they had a special ammunition, which was the 14 mm cartridge was actually made of an alloy. It's not a brass. And these guns were this radar was so beautifully camouflaged deep inside that zoo. It was almost about more than 40 kilometers from Dhaka, northwest. Mirpur, sir. And it was beautifully camouflaged. It was a small place, but very beautifully camouflaged. And till the time we entered that radar point, we could not make out that there is any activity in this area. In fact, the tarmac road also was properly covered. The area around the radar and the thing, that was also made of concrete, but fully painted and fully covered with nets, including the trees that were chopped off to clear the arc of fire for the air defense guns. Even they were camouflaged. That is how it was undetectable. The second point I would just like to mention is, sir, that you mentioned on the last day, 4 Canberras had gone in for a sortie and we lost one of them. Yes. In fact, we were on the outskirts. I was watching that action, sir. And I was wondering why this Canberra is going again and again. And the last aircraft which went down, they were diving in. I was wondering why they are diving in. Clouding, he had to descend below cloud. Sir. So he was virtually diving in. Yes. And in one of the dives, it didn't come out, and that was in the twilight hours, just in the evening. And after that, I think next day the surrender took place. So it was that, unfortunate loss doesn't go off my mind. I couldn't go to where this thing, we were watching from a far distance, across the Lakya. We were still across the Lakya that time. But I was seeing that. But as far as Agartala airfield is concerned, so we were again finally deployed very close to the airfield. And as Brigadier Guraya mentioned, that our troops were there inside. And these Pakistani sabers attacked them, and in fact, Agartala runway is just about 2 kilometers from the IB. So these Pakistani aircraft attacked our troops between Akhoda and the airfield. And they were quite active that day, the first and second and third. After that, they virtually disappeared. And that was a big sigh for us, sigh of relief for us. Because we knew that we don't have to waste our time in putting the camouflage nets or camouflaging our gun positions. And it was the most wonderful thing was between Brahmanbaria and Ashuganj, the railway track. Of course, the Pakis had covered the railway track to use them as a line of communication. One track was removed. On one track, they could move their trains, and the second track, the railway sleepers and all were used to make the bunkers to protect this thing. And there was a convoy which had been attacked, and I saw the remains of that convoy also. It was moving back towards Ashuganj. Early morning, I think they had been attacked because they had been daylighted while withdrawing. It was a wonderful action, and I'm again thankful. For the first time, I've seen the coverage of the air action as well as the army action, and having been a part of it, it's wonderful to hear that, sir. And my thanks to Colonel Push. I take this opportunity for including my article in the book.
Thank you. Sir, I think we'll take the last question, sir.
Colonel Kapoor, I was part of the same unit and part of the heliborne ops between Brahmanbaria and Narsingdi. What you have described today is what the helicopter pilots were being instructed. I was the beneficiary of that effort. We also had no load tables. We were given orders at the last minute, and we had to come up with loads which we estimated to be suitable for helicopter operations. Now, we had no prior experience. I was a second lieutenant at that time with barely a year of service, and it was all guesswork. How we were doing it was 4 helicopters would arrive at the helipad, and we had these estimated loads ready. These would be put on board. The pilot would try and lift off a few feet off the ground, and if it was too heavy, he would say, get rid of some of the load. That was the only way that they were able to operate. And we got to the other end, the loads would be easily taken off the helicopter, But then we were stuck with all our equipment, all the guns, all the ammunition, no vehicles. So we had a huge problem of what to do from the helipad where we arrived. We resolved that, of course, by using other means. I also want to share what happened after the war. The surrender took place on the 16th, and we were all very exuberant, very enthusiastic. We wanted to celebrate the fact that we had all gone through the war and we had lived to talk about it. So we wanted a party in the mess. There was no alcohol, and we were going around looking for some. I happened to be visiting the Air Force mess, the Pakistani Air Force mess, basically to find out, do you have any alcohol? There's a tall 6-foot officer who was coming out of the mess. So I stopped him and I asked him. With a big smile on his face, he says, you know, last few days, you all have been dropping bombs on us all the time. One of your 500-pounders has fallen right on the mess. We don't have a mess anymore. And he was saying all this with a big smile. I just wanted to say this. Thank you. Yes.
Sir. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Although I've spoken for quite a bit of me, one last small episode, and this is a compliment to Air Marshal Chandan Singh. When the first helicopter was taking off from Brahmanbadia for Raipura, taking Alpha Company of 4 guards, commanded by Major Chandrakant, my friend. Now, Chandrakant loaded his company or part of his company, and what does he find before the helicopter is taking off? Right in the front corner, right behind the pilot, there's somebody sitting there. His CO, that time Lieutenant Colonel Himmat Singh, the front general, and along with him, Group Captain Chandan Singh. So Himmat asked him, Chandan, what are you doing? This is my force being lifted. What are you doing? You got job on the ground here. He said, no. I want to make sure that you people, you Congos, when the helicopter lands, you get out of my helicopter. I want to make sure.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you'll all agree that it's been a fascinating seminar. It's been an honor and a privilege to listen not just to our veterans, but also to Air Marshal Vikram Singh. The extent of his research, I'm sure, will be, it's a game changer insofar as our understanding of the 1971 air operations are concerned, and also the experiences that have been shared by our esteemed veterans. It breathes life into the dry bones of history when you actually hear these first-person accounts. So, first and foremost, I would like to request everyone to join me in giving a big hand to our speakers. I'd like to close with a vote of thanks, first and foremost, to Air Headquarters, to the Indian Air Force for having supported the seminar. The Vice Chief is very, very supportive to Air Marshal Ranade. Thank you again, sir, for having spared your time to be here amongst us. I'd like to thank DG USI for his support for the center and its activities. And of course, to our speakers for having spared their time and shared their views with us. And from the center, Dr. Archana Tyagi, who's not here today, and my colleague Sanjana, who has worked tirelessly to put all of this together. So thank you all once again. And the speakers, I'll request if you could share your scripts, or if you share a write-up with us. We would like to publish this as a monograph. And sir, we'd request even if you could give us your remarks, we can all include that as part of that. And now lunch is laid out. Please join us for lunch. Before we finish, sir, you wanted to present this. May I request you to come up and do that, and then we'll wind up after that.
I also like to present original newspaper of 18th December 21. I hope you will make an image to display it somewhere. It's a historic.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, now please join us for lunch. Sir. Oh, yes, please come, sir. Hi. So I request the panelists to please come up for a group photograph with Air Marshal Ranade. Sir, a photograph together with the. I request everyone to come here, so we'll come out with the Thanks for coming. Please come.
Here to answer. Please come. Ready? No.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Please join us for lunch, ladies and gentlemen. It's laid out in the pavilion on the right, towards the end of the corridor.